welcome into One-on-One on Sunlink Channel 112 live from Studio 318. It is Friday. We're getting ready for the weekend, the week before spring break. I am Reed Spencer, joined by my co-host Logan Moser, as always. But there is a ton going on in the sports world, especially here in Stillwater, America. A lot of Oklahoma State athletics. We'll get into basketball, softball, baseball, wrestling, everything going on here at OSU later. And we will have Ocala wrestling beat reporter Wade Haugen on in the fourth segment to talk about the upcoming Big 12 tournament this weekend in Tulsa. But we will start with the NFL. The National Football League, I know, Logan, the NBA, your league is the king of petty wars, right?
Yeah.
But now we're in the NFL, and we'll get to the big news later, but I want to start with the news that's kind of close to you and your heart and Barrett's heart.
Yeah.
You guys are swapping quarterbacks. Case Keenum has been traded to the Washington Redskins. Denver obviously signed him to a 2-year, $36 million deal last year. Turned into a 6-10 season. Vance Joseph is fired, and then they go trade for Joe Flacco, the former Super Bowl MVP. I mean, this works out. Listen, we can make fun of the Broncos all we want. They lost that game, by the way.
Yep.
We can do all those things. But now that they've made the bad move. But this was a nice move post-bad move, if that makes sense.
Yeah. But you can't – I guess you can be happy about it because at least we're not paying both of these guys. We're still paying, I think, $4 million to send Case Keenum away, which isn't great. And we're not really getting anything of value in return. Washington, they're, I guess, replacing Alex Smith for the time being. He's obviously not going to play next year with his injury. But I think I told you this last night, Reed. It's like selling your car for scraps after you've already totaled it. Like, you got like $200, but your car wasn't going to do anything for you anyway. You know what I mean? And Joe Flacco's not going to help the Broncos make the playoffs. Like, the Broncos are going to be in the same spot next summer, looking for a quarterback. I just hope they're looking for one in the draft instead of one that's however old and has proven they're not very good. You know what I mean? I don't want to go get who else. For a second, Reed, I was afraid we were going to try and go get Nick Foles.
I mean, it'd be better than what's going on now.
It probably would, but it wouldn't be a long-term answer. And I don't know if John Elway can ever find a long-term answer at the quarterback position. He is, I think, very well proven that he can't do that. He is a terrible evaluator of talent. So we'll have to see. I bet I'm in the same spot next year, but I can't complain too much. Like you said before the show started, I got 7 more seasons. We won a Super Bowl, I guess, 3 seasons ago. So I still got quite a bit of time left before I can complain, but I'm going to complain, just not when you're in the room.
Well, I mean, he had a base salary of $18 million. Obviously, they were going to owe him $7 million.
Yeah.
It was going to be $10 million in dead money if they cut him. So now they trade him. They work out a deal with the Redskins. They're splitting the cost, $3 million apiece, plus $500,000 in restructuring bonuses that are due. I mean, it's a good deal for the Broncos now that they get out from underneath this deal that they put themselves in. But let's talk about the move for the Washington Redskins because they only have one quarterback on roster, really, and that was Colt McCoy.
Right.
And this isn't Texas, and it's not 2009. He's got $3.375 million due on the cap. That's a decent deal for Colt McCoy because he has had to start some games. I don't even know that you would call him necessarily a backup anymore.
Yeah.
But people in that building think that Colt McCoy could be the answer. One of those people, not in the building, but was in the audio, as the
in
audio
our building,
had the crazy idea that Colt McCoy would have been the answer. That's ridiculous. All right, Colt McCoy's not the answer at anything. He won the answer in Pasadena in 2009 for Texas. He's not the answer for the Washington Redskins. Listen, folks, it's the National Football League. I'm a Kansas City Chiefs fan. 40 years of suck, man. But you get one quarterback and everything changes. The Broncos, 2 quarterbacks, John Elway, Peyton Manning. That's what the success has revolved around. The Colts, Peyton Manning.
Andrew
Outside
Luck.
of that, I mean, Johnny Unitas.
Yeah.
I mean, you have got to have a quarterback to win championships in this league. Obviously, the 2000 Ravens were the anomaly, right? They win with Trent Dilfer. But you have got to have an above-average quarterback to win in this league.
You could say the 2012 Ravens were also an anomaly.
Well,
I mean, Joe Flacco did have a good playoffs.
That was his best year as an incredible run and beat your Broncos.
He did.
And with that cannon arm, and makes himself a ton of money and has been terrible ever since then.
Yeah.
But seriously, I've dealt with this as a fan. You're dealing with it now. Barrett's been in, basically football purgatory, right, for his entire life. But the answer to winning championships, you can be okay, you can be decent. But Colt McCoy, Case Keenum,
even Alex Smith.
I mean, and with all due respect, I love Alex Smith.
Yeah.
I think he's an above-average quarterback. He's underrated, but he does have serious limitations. But he has that gruesome injury. He's got a cast up to his thigh. This should tell you the future of Alex Smith.
Yeah.
He's not going to play next year. He may never play again. Hopefully he does. But you want him, to be healthy first and foremost. But
right,
listen,
and the Redskins are in the same position the Broncos are. They don't have a young guy that's next. They don't have
no.
They don't have a Patrick Mahomes waiting. They don't have an Aaron Rodgers when they had Brett Favre. They don't have the next guy.
That is what is so insane to me. Put all of your draft. The Redskins should give up everything. They should give up an entire year's draft to go get Kyler Murray. Am I convinced Kyler Murray could win you championships? Absolutely not. But you have got to go get a quarterback. You should draft a quarterback every single year. Not in the first round, obviously, but you should draft one because you never know when you're going to hit on one.
Right.
But Colt McCoy and Case Keenum, and for the Broncos, an aging Joe Flacco who had his job taken away from Lamar Jackson, who not many people think can play. They wanted to put him at wide receiver. I mean, why is it so hard for these NFL teams to get a clue? I know nothing about scouting players. I know nothing about running a team, but I'm a fan. But I can tell you, it doesn't work without the guy, and that guy has got to be the quarterback. These teams mess around, or that you're trading Case Keenum, receiving Case Keenum, it doesn't matter. Case Keenum's never winning a Super Bowl. Mark it down on one-on-one. Not exactly a hot take, because I think like everyone besides his mother probably would agree with that, but I mean, it's just not going to happen. You've got to go get your guy.
Yeah, and I mean, he got pretty close to making a Super Bowl a couple years ago in Minnesota, but that situation in Minnesota was just, it was lightning in a bottle. Like, that's not repeatable. The weapons he had on that team, the coaching, and just his overall play, that's not going to happen again. You're not going to get another season like that out of Case Keenum ever. I mean, he stepped up when he needed to. He made a ton of money. Oh, John Elway makes me so mad. But
the Jeff Fisher special is 7-9, right? Or 8-8.
Yeah.
The Case Keenum special 6-10. I mean, he's 31 years old. You can feel sorry for the guy. He's getting paid a lot of money, but man, nobody wants him. I mean, he just gets traded, signed. This will be his fourth team in 4 years, correct?
Yeah.
I mean, Rams, Vikings, Broncos now Redskins. So. Yikes. But anyways, that trade did take place, so obviously Redskins fans are going to have to deal with that for at least the year upcoming. Teams inquired about Josh Rosen over the course of the combine, and people Cardinals weren't really willing to talk.
Yeah.
But there's been reports that Cliff Kingsbury says it's a done deal. They're going to take Kyler, but they didn't want anything to do with the talks at the combine. Do you think they're still going to make a move? Or do you think Rosen is pretty secure in his spot in Arizona?
I think he's going to be on the move. It's whenever you hear stuff around this time of year, whether it's from Trust Report. Yeah, I was about to say, Ian Rappaport last night said Antonio Brown was going to be a Buffalo Bill. That fell apart. I was asleep for the entire Antonio Brown Buffalo Bills era. By the time I had woken up, it had come and gone. Stuff like this just happens this time around this time of year, so you got to take everything with a grain of salt. But I think Kyler's the next Cardinals quarterback.
So you think Kyler will go number one? All right.
I do.
I don't agree with that, but we're going to move on past this topic because we can talk about this until, the combine comes. Antonio Brown, a Buffalo Bill, not technically, but according to Ian Rappaport, it was a done deal, right?
Yeah.
They just had to work out a few little things, and then the rest of the NFL reporting world, including Antonio Brown himself on Instagram, called out the league. It was like, no, fake news. Why do you think this deal fell apart? The Bills GM said, hey, it's kind of because we just didn't work out for both parties. I think they called Drew Rosenhaus and said, hey, we're going to move trade him to Buffalo. And Drew Rosenhaus called Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown said, I will retire. Not a chance I'm playing in Buffalo, New York. The Niagara Falls is cool. It ain't that cool, boys.
No.
I ain't going. No. And so Rosenhaus called the Steelers and said, you might tell him it's not going to go well. No matter what they pay him, he's not going to Buffalo. That would be my thinking behind it.
Yeah.
This is the quote from the Bills general manager. We inquired about Antonio Brown on Tuesday and kept talks open with the Steelers. This is Brandon Beane, as I said, the Bills general manager. We had positive discussions, but ultimately it didn't make sense for either side. As great as the player as Antonio is, we have moved on, and our focus is on free agency. When's the last time the Buffalo Bills landed a marquee free agent? Yeah, it never happened.
Yeah, I think I'm on your side with this. I think Antonio Brown caught wind of this and was like, "You're trying to trade me where?" And he was not about it. And you can blame Antonio Brown did this to himself. He has almost relegated himself to being a Buffalo Bill. The way he's gone on TV, done all these interviews, done all the show, like the shop and all that, he has killed his trade value, and I can't figure out why. You know, why would you want to kill your own trade value?
I think he is being. Drew Rosenhaus is a phenomenal agent, but sometimes even those guys can't get a hold of Antonio Brown. My initial reaction to him getting traded to Buffalo was I burst out and laughed.
Yeah,
it's like, yo, he. Man.
The first thing everyone thought of was Josh Allen overthrowing him on a 5-yard out route. I mean.
And the Larry Fitzgerald quotes came up. It's like, yeah, he doesn't really know what he's getting himself into.
Yeah.
So that was, Ian Rappaport is a great NFL reporter, but that one.
Yeah, I got that one wrong.
Fell through.
Yeah.
Adam Schefter came from the top rope and said, no, this deal's been dead since Wednesday. But the Bills do have $76 million in salary cap space. I don't think it's going to be spent in free agency. They want it to be, but I don't think they can land those guys. So now we kind of turn our attention back to the teams that, Adam Schefter says they've spoken to at least 6 or 7 teams. The Titans, Redskins, Raiders, Packers, apparently the Buffalo Bills were talks at times.
Yeah.
The Packers, could
That's
they go get
interesting.
him?
That's very interesting. I think you'd have to give up.
He wants a ridiculously structured deal.
Yeah.
And they have Aaron Rodgers' deal on the books, but they could still afford him. But
that's your
main
whole
question
team,
is,
basically.
yes, my real question is, he couldn't get along with Ben Roethlisberger, which is not known to be a particularly nice guy to his teammates. Aaron Rodgers it's a well-known jerk. I mean, he is.
Yeah.
And whether he describes himself that way or not, I obviously don't know Aaron Rodgers, but a lot of people say that. A lot of people in the media have put that out there. And the way he's acted is known to be, it looks like it's true. How well would Antonio Brown and Aaron Rodgers fit in the same locker room?
Is there a chance this is two guys that are so hard to work with, like they fit perfectly? You know what I mean? Maybe they just totally avoid each other and don't have any problems, but they work well on the field.
2 negatives equal positive.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying that is very likely. I don't think it would work out well at all. Like you said, Aaron Rodgers is very vocal, especially about criticizing teammates. Big Ben told Antonio Brown himself, or I guess he went on radio and said he ran the route wrong, but Aaron Rodgers would tell him right after he did it. He would mention it in postgame. He might go on a radio show and say it. He might go on TV and say it, and he'd probably say it the next week.
Well, I think with
all
Aaron
he does
Rodgers,
is criticize teammates.
I mean, I just don't know how this is going to work out. I really don't know how well it's going to work out. But the reports are the Steelers having a hard time moving him.
Shocker.
Because he has done this to himself.
Yeah. I can't wait until he ends up, a Detroit Lion.
They're going to have to pay him a lot of money either way. Do you think there's any way they just release him because they can't move him? You think they'll find a trade partner?
I think they'll find someone eventually. They know they can get something because he's so talented. I think they'll end up trading him.
Well, it'll be interesting. We'll follow along with that news. I want to read you my favorite headline. We'll get to that after the break.
All right.
So we are going to take that quick commercial break, come back and talk about everything going on in the NBA. And LeBron might as well sit down in a chair with us because he's not going to be playing a ton of basketball. We'll be right back after this.
One-on-One is brought to you by Tinker Federal Credit Union. Visit Facebook.com/TinkerFCU. While you're there for your family, we're there for you. Tinker Federal Credit Union. And OSU Communications. Not sure where to park? OSU Communications has got you covered with parking tips and bus schedule information. We'll be right back.
Determining your future by selecting a major can be difficult.
It's okay to be undecided,
Connect with the College of Arts and Sciences, where your options are endless.
where you can uncover your passions and achieve your goals.
Express your creativity by exploring a career in the visual and performing arts.
Investigate new discoveries to make the world a better place with a career in science.
Advance knowledge, communicate progress, and contribute to a healthier planet with a career rooted in the social sciences.
Discover your career by looking at the world from different perspectives through the humanities.
Realize a better tomorrow through problem solving and mining data that can change lives.
CAS prepares you to succeed through internships, study abroad, student-guided research projects, and service activities.
With 109 majors, 52 minors, and 24 departments, the only thing missing is you. College of Arts and Sciences.
Connect.
Achieve, succeed.
When you have a team of physicians and nurses that really truly care about their patients, that translates into patient care.
It's a small practice, it's a small town. Everybody really takes that time to put the patient first.
Everybody cares what's happening to me and that I'm making progress and I'm gaining my freedom back and my mobility back. This patient is saying thank you.
This spring, I invite you to shop in downtown Stillwater. Downtown Stillwater is home to locally owned shops, boutiques, eateries, and dependable professionals that you can trust. Find the perfect gift for your graduate, have a delicious meal with mom, or just stop in to enjoy great spring savings. By creating a demand for local goods and services, you can ensure a place for the local businesses that help give our community character and keep it unique. On behalf of Downtown Stillwater, thank you for shopping local.
Welcome back into One-on-One on Suddenlink Channel 112, live from Studio 318. It is time to get in to LeBron James. LeBron James passes Michael Jordan, the GOAT, as number 4 all-time on points scored at 32,292 is what MJ finished with. But LeBron does surpass him in Denver the other night in a loss, by the way. But
Yeah,
what do you make of
in a blowout
LeBron James passing Michael Jordan? He did it, and he needed 118 more games to get there. But LeBron did it in 1,240 fewer field goal attempts.
Right. More efficient, I guess, but a lot slower. Everyone's been saying, LeBron's not known as a scorer. Michael was a scorer.
No, what is LeBron
LeBron's
known
comp
as?
is more Magic Johnson. He's more of a playmaker. But, I mean, it doesn't really matter how he did it. It's impressive either way. Whether it took him more games, whether it took him less shots, whether it took him more shots in less games, that's a lot of points. Not a lot of guys are in the 30,000 point club. It's exclusive for a reason. It's super impressive. It doesn't elevate where he is in my all-time rankings or anything like that. It certainly doesn't put him ahead of Jordan in that respect, because we talked about this last night, Reed. LeBron's never going to have 6 championships like Michael did. Nope. And it doesn't matter that Michael went 6 for 6. He could have gone 6 for 8, 6 for 9, whatever. He has more championships, and he has similar accolades to what LeBron does. I mean, it's not all about the championships, but LeBron's record in the finals, 3 and 5 or 3 and 6, I think.
3 and 5. He's been to 8.
3 and 5, 7 straight. Won 2 out of the 5 that he went to in the 7 straight.
I guess he's been to 8 straight, right? 4 in Miami and then 7.
Yeah.
7. Yeah.
Okay. So, but that Dallas series, it hurts his resume all time. I mean, I'm gonna bring it back to the all-time points list a little bit. He's gonna pass Kobe. He'll probably pass Karl Malone. I don't think he'll touch Kareem's record, just because I don't know if he's gonna be able to keep it up at this pace. I think he needed over 200 games.
Yeah, 6,000 points short.
Yeah. So I mean, he'll be way up there by the end of his career, and that's really impressive. It just shows how durable he was for so long, and maybe he still will be. But yeah, it doesn't change how I think about him in his legacy.
Well, the interesting thing is, you mentioned he's going to pass Kobe for third.
Soon. He's going to pass Kobe next year.
how are the Laker fans going to react when he passes Kobe?
They're probably if it's in a season like this, they're probably not going to. I don't know if they'll be angry.
They're not going to be.
They're
happy.
not going to be happy. But
listen, I wish for LeBron, and a lot of this is LeBron's fault, and it's been a topic every show, not because there's not other stuff to talk about, because it is so newsworthy, because he is LeBron James, it is the Los Angeles Lakers. I wish that this would have happened in a more positive season. Because they lose in Denver, the streak's great, but they're losing when it happens. They lose the game, they're on a losing streak.
Yeah.
They're losers, right?
they are.
Lakers to losers. I mean, I just wish it would have happened in a better setting for LeBron James.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I wish it was at least a win. Maybe not in a season where he goes on to win the finals or whatever, but the way this whole season's gone, the way people have kind of gone at LeBron as a leader, rightfully so. He hasn't been his best this season. It's just, I don't know what to make of this season for LeBron though as a whole. It's full of highlights, like this, all of the other accolades he's accumulated throughout the season. First player in all-time, top 10 in points and assists. But if you look at the season from a team perspective, it's awful. It's probably his worst season since before he went to Miami, during his first stint in Cleveland. So it's.
Well, you mentioned now where the road the season's going down. The Lakers announced they're putting him on a minutes restriction.
Yeah.
He may not play back-to-backs.
Yeah.
They're 6.5 games back of the 8 seed with 17 remaining. They could go 17-0, and I don't know if they would make the playoffs. I mean,
probably not. The Kings and the Spurs would have to go on a big slide, and the Clippers.
I don't think this is going to happen for the Los Angeles Lakers.
Yeah.
They now have about as good odds to make the playoffs as they do to land Zion. Or we jokingly, well, I would say jokingly, I was pretty serious when I said it, it's going to be 3 weeks before he gets injured.
Shut down, yeah.
They ain't faking an injury. I mean, they're just shutting him down. He says they're not shutting him down. He's going to still be playing. But when you put LeBron James on a minutes restriction.
I'm interested to see if they'll actually hold him to it, though, because he's been on a minutes restriction before, and he just blows right past it. It's kind of his call. We'll see if that's still the case.
I mean, he certainly seems to want to play, but this is just it's like clockwork. The excuses are hilarious to me.
Yeah.
I mean, you get paid that much money, do it. Do what you're paid to do. You're a part of the reason you are losing like that. By the way, wouldn't it be awesome if you would have dunked on that or drained a 3, but instead it was a layup on a foul?
Yeah.
Sometimes we just get robbed, right?
Yeah, it definitely wasn't a super highlight or anything like that, and there's some of that defense that LeBron has just not been playing at all this year. And that's part of the problem. He saves himself in the regular season for the playoffs because, it's hard to make the finals if you go hard every night, if you give it 100%. But they're not even going to make the playoffs, so I don't understand why he's at least not trying on both ends of the floor. Maybe it's just because he doesn't care at all. Maybe he's injured, I say that in air quotes. I know there's a video over me right now, but injured, and it's a mess. This has been a really rough season for LeBron's image because before this it's been this guy can take anyone to the finals. This guy can take anyone to the playoffs. You can put him on any team, and they're instantly a contender.
That's what I would have told you.
That's not the case anymore. This is proof. He cannot make anyone a contender anymore. Maybe it's because he's too old. Maybe it's because he didn't get that second guy. Maybe it's because they didn't get a Paul George in the offseason. They didn't trade for Kawhi Leonard last year. They didn't trade for Anthony Davis this year. I think that Anthony Davis stuff hurt the team as well from a chemistry perspective.
Look at their record since then.
Yeah.
I mean, they've lost, 8 of 9? I mean, they are not a good basketball team, but, I mean, they're not going to make the playoffs. It'll be interesting to see where they fall.
It'll be really interesting to see who's in the purple and gold next year with LeBron.
This certainly is
there's not a lot of guys on this team I can see.
No.
Kyle Kuzma, Brandon Ingram, maybe. He might have to be the centerpiece of a trade. So it'll be interesting.
Well, I'm with you. It'll be interesting to see, but this has not been the best audition for free agents that the Lakers could have put out there. But you talked about age there, the aging LeBron, the aging Vince Carter on PTI yesterday said he wants to come back for a 22nd season, Logan.
I swear, if Vince Carter comes back and he does not sign a one-year deal with the Golden State Warriors, with one of the teams that's going to win a championship, I'm going to be so angry. I'm tired of this guy playing and signing with the Hawks and the Kings and Memphis. What are you doing? Everyone wants Vince Carter to have a ring. We don't care how he gets it at this point. He's a Hall of Famer whether he gets it or not. But he needs to go out there and just win a championship. Go chase a championship, Vince Carter. If it's good enough for David West, it's good enough for you. Just go do it. Everyone wants him to go win a ring, and I'm tired of watching him playing these. The Kings were awful last year. It's a much different story this year, but they were awful last year. The Hawks are not very good this year. Memphis was not very good when he was in Memphis. They were not going to go win a championship. I just want to see him as a champion, Reed. He deserves it.
Do you think he could play an integral part of a championship team? And that's kind of a dumb question because I don't think so. He's aged, but
I think he can give you 10 minutes. I think he can be a guy. I think he can play minutes. I'm not saying he can play in Game 7, and I don't think you can play him more than 13, 12 minutes or something like that. But I don't know. I could see him getting on the court for a good thing. I think he could give valuable minutes to a team like the Warriors this year.
Well, you never know where he's going to sign.
Yeah.
But maybe back in Atlanta. I don't know. But
I hope not.
And he may not actually come back, but he does want to play that 22nd season.
Either don't come back or sign with the Warriors. Please.
Well, last night...
DeMarcus Cousins did it.
Yeah, that's true. He is about 20 years younger almost. But last night, the Oklahoma City Thunder go out to Portland, and they take on division rival, obviously, the Trailblazers, in a 121 overtime win over the Blazers. Nurkic got ejected. Paul George drops 32. Westbrook drops 37.
Damian Lillard had 51.
51 points, but it wasn't enough to take down the Thunder. Did you think there's been some talk about these, the quick trigger techs and ridiculous? I thought Nurkic should have been ejected last night.
I didn't.
In that moment, like going head to head with Paul George like that, I don't have a problem tossing him there.
Was it a double tech?
He had been teed up before.
But it was a double tech on Nurkic and Paul George?
Right, yeah.
I hate the double tech. I think the double tech is the worst call in basketball. What does it do? It's supposed to be, I guess, to diffuse a situation, but I've never seen give a double tech and then both teams back off and calm down.
Paul George straight clocked him with an elbow. I didn't think it was intentional. And you know me, I have never defended the Oklahoma City Thunder on anything.
Yeah.
I didn't think Paul George's elbow was intentional. I just didn't.
Yeah.
It felt like a basketball play to me. Nurkic overreacted. I didn't have a problem with it. But did you see the ending of this game, the way it went into overtime?
I did not.
The Thunder are down by 2.
Uh-huh.
Trailblazers shoot 2 free throws, miss them. Oklahoma City gets the rebound. They call a foul on Steven Adams with 1.8 seconds left. So the Trailblazers shoot free throws, tie it. No, tie it now. They got 4 chances. They could have won the game.
Yeah.
But they end up going overtime. Obviously, the Thunder get to win, but it was bad officiating. Because when a moment like that, when the ball goes to the right side of the court and the foul's on the left side of the court, you can't call that in a moment like that. But NBA officials getting it wrong once again. Shocker. But that was a good win for the Oklahoma City Thunder.
I agree.
They've been on a bad slide here post All-Star break.
And, this is, like you said, a division rival. They swept the Blazers this season. Before this season, I don't think the Thunder had won in Portland in almost 3 years, I think. So it was a good season playing against the Blazers. Hopefully they can start to pick it up and play their best basketball at the right time. Because I was with you. They were on a bad slide, and I thought it was going to be really bad going into the playoffs. But hopefully they can pick it up.
Well, we will see. There's about between 17 and 20 games left here for most of the teams in the NBA. So we're going down the final stretch before we get into the playoffs. We're going to take a quick break, come back, and talk about Oklahoma State basketball and the success they had down in Waco on Wednesday.
One is brought to you by Oklahoma Christian University. Get your master's degree in accounting, business administration, theology, engineering, computer science, or cybersecurity from Oklahoma Christian University. Apply at oc.edu/grad. Oklahoma University is committed to offering the best graduate school experience we possibly can. Come learn and grow with us. And The Table. Stop by The Table on Thursdays at 8 p.m. to join their Bible study. Shoot Rachel an email at rachel@thetableosu.com for more information. We'll be right back.
mind, I was never going to walk right again. Before we were through, we had walked 23 steps. And that was my first steps of freedom. This patient is saying thank you.
Welcome back into One-on-One on Suddenlink Channel 112 live from Studio 318. We're going to talk about the Oklahoma State Cowboys, but just some NFL news. It looks like the Giants have traded Olivier Verdon, Pro Bowl linebacker, to the Cleveland Browns for right guard Kevin Settler. So that is some interesting news there on the world. And the Jacksonville Jaguars are cutting everyone
To sign Nick Foles.
they possibly can.
Are they cutting Blake Bortles?
They cut Carlos Hyde. They've cut Malik Jackson. I mean, I believe they cut a safety as well. So they're on their way to trading everyone here. Not trading, they're just cutting everyone. So all these guys will find places. I've got the tweet pulled up here from Adam Schefter. So far today, the Jaguars have released Malik Jackson, Carlos Hyde, and Deshaun Gibson. Wow. There are no plans to release Blake Bortles today. Per source, Jaguars likely need to wait to make sure they can procure a free agent quarterback next week before moving on from Bortles. So the Foles thing is not guaranteed, according to Adam Schefter, but they are releasing just about everyone, it seems like. So
they better hope that's guaranteed.
And before I forget, because we will get into Oklahoma State basketball here really quickly, but I want you to read you this headline, because the Chicago Bears missed Cody Parkey. They released him. He missed a field goal to send him advance to the playoffs, lose to the Eagles. He got a ton of flack for it.
Yeah.
Probably rightfully so. This is real, people. The Bears sign former Pitt kicker Chris Blewett. His last name is Blewett. Cody Parkey Blewett. Oh, man. He did kick a 45-yarder to beat number 2 Clemson in Death Valley at one time. But, Logan, his name is Chris Blewett.
Yeah.
Your kicker.
Not a good omen.
Oh, yikes.
I can't wait.
Well,
is he going to be better or worse than Cody Parkey?
I mean,
it's hard to be worse.
As long as he doesn't send it off the crossbar about 19,000 times, he's going to be better than Cody Parkey. But yikes. Chris Blewett signed with the now you're throwing stuff.
I know.
I
dropped my mic. That's my bad.
So back to Cowboy basketball here. We will start with the unfortunate headline. Maurice Kalou, Contravius Jones, and Michael Weathers previously released from Oklahoma State basketball in January due to a situation, as Mike Boynton described it. But now we know what those situations were.
Yeah.
They were charged with 9 counts of malicious injury to property. So that is some headlines there revolving around former Cowboy basketball players. So I imagine they will have to return to Stillwater and face the legal system on that one. But good news is the Oklahoma State Cowboys went down to Waco on Wednesday, and they beat the Baylor Bears 67-64, their first win over Baylor in 7 tries. What this team's been through, the injuries, everything, this is a win that you have got to be excited about if you're Mike Boynton and the Cowboys.
Absolutely. I mean, ended a tough 3-game skid. Kansas State, Texas Tech, and then Kansas all in a row like that. And the Kansas State loss was bad, but the other two were really close. You play Texas Tech and you play Kansas really close like that, you gotta be feeling pretty good about yourself as a team, and then you go in and you win in Waco, like you said, the first time in 7 tries. That's got to get you at least feeling good towards the end of the season. Hopefully you can wrap up the season with a win over West Virginia. I believe that is tomorrow in Gallagher-Iba. So
3 p.m. tip-off. So
hopefully you can end the season on a little 2-game, I don't know if you can call that a streak, but
Yeah, Baylor had been I heard Mike Boynton describe the game before the game. They were playing like 70% man, 30% zone. That zone previously is like 100%, and it killed the Cowboys.
Yeah.
It had absolutely demolished them. But Isaac Likely drops career high 23 points in his home state of Texas. Oklahoma State was 5 of 29 from beyond 3-point land.
Yeah.
That was bad. Not great, especially the way they had shot the ball. They might have blown Baylor out had they shot the ball the way they did against Tech in Kansas. But it's better you win that way and you don't have that, so you're showing that much more.
Yeah.
So some promise there. The reinforcements are on their way.
Absolutely. Both freshmen really showed out, both starting freshmen, I should say. Isaac Likely, like you said, 23 points, 6 assists, 9 rebounds. Yorane, 6 block shots.
Yeah, he
is going to be awesome.
He
9
was-
rebounds, 14 points.
Yeah, 1 rebound away from a double-double and those 6 blocks. That puts him to 70 blocks on the season. That's the most by a freshman in Oklahoma State school history.
Yeah.
He now moves to 3rd all-time in a season with Bryant Reeves. That's pretty impressive.
That's
and
awesome.
I mean, he's got 2 games at least to improve on that. So
Yeah.
he's going to pass Big Country for blocks in a single
But
season.
you hope so.
Well, yeah. It would be hard for him not to get one, but you
I
would think
agree.
so.
Yeah.
But he's at least tied. I mean, he might be the best big man Oklahoma State's had in a long, long time.
I don't disrespect Mitchell Solomon. Mitchell Solomon turned into a pretty good
No, but
big
he's
guy.
in his freshman
Yeah,
year.
okay, yeah, I agree. He's the
mean,
best freshman big man we've had in a very, very long time.
The potential for
Yes.
because with all due respect for Mitchell Solomon, he was good, but he really
he developed
showed
into
out
that.
in his senior season last year. It was phenomenal.
Yeah.
But yours is a freshman.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of potential here for yours. So as we said, 70 blocks on the season at 2 games at least to improve on that. But that's the building blocks that you could talk about if you're Mike Boynton, because you got Avery Anderson, you got the Boone twins, you got Marcus Watson coming in. You're in the hunt for some more 5- and 4-star recruits. You have 2 spots in the 2019 class remaining. We just talked about the negative headlines. Lamont Evans, negative headline.
Yeah.
Everything that could have happened to this team has happened to this team. They've dealt with injuries, depleted roster. They find way to win. They've been blown out a couple times, but they've been competitive with some really good teams, got some scrappy wins. But yours playing this well. Isaac Likely's playing this well. You still have 3 great leaders.
Yeah.
But with Dzongwa, Cameron Griffin, Lindy Waters coming back for at least 1 more year.
Yeah.
And you've got reinforcements on the way.
If you had told me Cameron Griff, Lindy Waters, and Dzongwa combined for 25 points in this game,
Yeah.
and we won,
I
would have laughed at you. But the future is bright. Like you said, those recruits that are coming in, hopefully they can make an impact pretty soon, because you got McGriff and Lindy and Thomas for 1 more year. Hopefully we can maximize on that while they're here. And, maybe we can start a new streak with years that Kansas doesn't win the Big 12. Maybe the Cowboys can not make a run at the Big 12 title, but, make some noise.
You never know. Look how fast Chris Beard flipped the Texas Tech Red Raiders, because they went
Yeah,
from
very true.
terrible to
Yep.
at least going to win a big share, you would think. So that leads me to my next question before we get into other Oklahoma State athletics. The Kansas State Wildcats and Texas Tech are tied atop the Big 12.
Right.
Kansas State plays last on Saturday. They tip off 8. Texas Tech tips off at 3. They play host to the OU Sooners, K-State does. So they will be at home. And Texas Tech goes to Hilton Coliseum up at Iowa State. Hilton Coliseum. Iowa State's been struggling. They got lost by 15 earlier in the week to
But
West
they're
Virginia.
at home.
But Hilton Coliseum.
That's tough.
And they know. I mean, they couldn't care less, I don't think, if K-State. I mean, they're not going to throw the game so K-State can win the title.
Soul, yeah.
I think if you're playing an opponent and you know, hey, we could prevent them from winning a Big 12 title in that rowdy of an environment, this could be a very, very, very tough game for Texas Tech.
Absolutely, because if Iowa State is able to beat, well, never mind. I was going to see if they could take over Baylor's spot in the standings, but Baylor would also have to lose. So Iowa State still has something to play for. They're playing for seeding in the Big 12 tournament. They're obviously not going to win the Big 12 title, regular season anyway. I don't want to talk about the tournament because anything can happen in the Big 12 tournament. But like you said, they're not going to just roll over and let Texas Tech get a share of the Big 12 title. They're going to try and win and spoil their season. Iowa State, I think Iowa State's goal at the beginning of every season, the coaches sit down with all the players and they say, we are going to ruin at least 2 seasons this year. Every sport.
Yeah, that's what they do. Last time the Red Raiders and Iowa State faced off, it was a 68-64 win for the Cyclones. And that was down in Lubbock.
Yeah, I was about to say that
was
was
the start of a 3-game skid for the Red Raiders. But back to Oklahoma State basketball, or I'll ask you really quickly: who is it? A share of the Big 12? Is there an individual champion at the end of this? What's the scope look like? The Big 12 Saturday night.
Yeah, I think we're gonna see. I think we're gonna see a share. We're gonna see Texas Tech and Kansas State split that.
Well, that will be interesting to see. So back to Cowboy basketball, they take on, as you mentioned, West Virginia in Gallagher-Iba tomorrow at 3 p.m. You mentioned, some people are playing for a Big 12 title. A lot's on the line. There's a lot on the line in this one. They're playing to not be last place. So they're playing for 9th place.
Yeah.
Who gets it done in Gallagher-Iba tomorrow?
The Cowboys.
Big win.
Big win.
Big win. All right, I agree with you. I think this will be a good win for the Cowboys.
I agree. Because, they dominated West Virginia.
In Morgantown.
In Morgantown. So, this West Virginia team, they're not what they should be. They don't even run the press or the zone.
Yeah, they've got a depleted roster,
They
much
do.
like Oklahoma State. But, excuses only work, in sports for so long. But playing for 9th place here in the Big 12. Oklahoma State athletics is a lot going on this weekend. Cowboy baseball is out in, Los Angeles for the Dodger Classic.
Telling you, Reed, we need to be managers for the baseball team.
I know.
We could be in LA right now.
The golf team, something. They're in Mexico, California, Hawaii. We don't get paid expenses here at One on One. This is, we got to make some phone calls to people, do whatever we need to do.
Yeah.
Because we've been in Stillwater for a long, long time.
It's been really cold.
Spring break is around the corner. But this weekend, the Cowboys do take on, first tonight, they take on USC, then UCLA on Saturday, and Michigan on Sunday. What do you think the weekend, what's the future look like for the Cowboys here?
I don't think it looks very good, Reed. I think
No?
I think they're going to go out to LA. Maybe they're going to enjoy the beach a little too much, too much of the nice weather. I think they're going to struggle this weekend. I think UCLA is. They're ranked number 2, if I'm remembering correctly, or am I thinking of a different sport? Either way, I think UCLA is going to be a tough game. USC probably going to be a tough game, and I don't think they can beat Michigan. I think if they can win one, it's the USC game. I don't think they're going to come out of this Dodger Classic with a winning record.
Well, it'll be interesting to see. Obviously, you got to play the game to find out. But
Right.
First pitch is 8 p.m. tonight in Dodger Stadium versus USC. The Cowgirls, on the other hand, defeat Wichita State. Thursday night or Wednesday. Get the first. They lost 4 games to Wichita State last year. Got swept by the Shockers, but they get a big win, a 3-0 win over Wichita State. They have to go back to Cowgirl Stadium at 4 a.m. to get on a bus to catch their flight to Eugene, Oregon to take on the number 24 Ducks. So hopefully a little bit of rest here for the Cowgirls. Number 24 Oregon, as I mentioned, but Oklahoma State's in the top 25 as well. I think that if the way they're pitching and the way they're playing, I think they can sweep Oregon.
I think so too. If they play like they have past week or so, I think they can not roll through Oregon because obviously it's a tough matchup, but I think they can sweep them like you said.
Well, the Pac-12 is a phenomenal softball conference. I love this series at this point in the season. Tells you all you really need to know about a team. So hopefully the Cowgirls can pull off some good things out in Eugene. The Cowboys on the West Coast as well in Los Angeles. Cowboys in Gallagher-Iba tomorrow, and they are raising the national championship banner for the golf team. So go celebrate the champion Cowboys tomorrow at 3 p.m. We're going to take a quick break, come back, and talk about the other athletic event going on. Oklahoma State Wrestling heads to the BOK Center for Big 12 Wrestling. So we're going to take a quick break, come back, and get into all that and more next.
One on One is brought to you by Oklahoma Air National Guard. Contact Oklahoma Air National Guard at 800-GO-TO-ANG or visit their website at goang.com/OK for more information about how to get 100% college tuition. And Unitarian Universalist Church. If you're looking for a church home, visit Unitarian Universalist Church of Stillwater, located at 320 South Stallard Street. They offer an alternative spiritual path and welcome all races, religions, and beliefs. They're also LGBTQ friendly. Services every Sunday at 10:30. We'll be right back.
Stillwater Medical Center now offers a convenient way to view your health information online. It's secure, easy, and free. Our hospital and clinic patient portals allow you to view results and reports, medications and allergies, track visit histories, view upcoming appointment information, and see your statements. To enroll, go to stillwatermedical.com and click on the patient portal link near the top right of the page. If you have questions, please feel free to call 405-533-6010.
Welcome back into One-on-One on Suddenlink Channel 112 live from Studio 318. We are joined by Wade Haugen, the guy who knows everything about Oklahoma State wrestling, the beat reporter for the Ocali, obviously on OSU Wrestling. They head to the BOK Center to take on the rest of the Big 12 field in the Big 12 tournament, I guess. They are seeking their 7th consecutive conference title. Listen, I'm going to just go through the rankings here of the weights. 125, number 1. 133, number 1. 141, number 5. 149, number 1. 157, number 4. 165, number 8. 174, number 1. 184, number 3. 197, number 1. Heavyweight, number 1. You would think the Cowboys could dominate this, but there's a weight there that I mentioned, 165, and I want to get into that first. Joe Smith is wrestling at 165. Can you just explain what happened in this wrestle-off? Because he takes down Chandler Rogers, a guy who finished his career with a pin over Iowa, the electrified Gal Garaiba, and he's done.
Yeah,
what happened?
It was a really surprising situation. Really what ended up happening was because of injuries throughout the year, they had to shuffle the lineup around and move people to different weights to where pretty much once it came time for postseason, they knew they were going to have a wrestle-off. I mean, they knew that either at like 74, 84, or 65, they knew there was going to be a wrestle-off somewhere. I don't think really everybody, I mean, obviously the coaches knew that this was probably going to happen, but, you know, everybody I don't think was really aware that it was going to come down to Joe and Chandler at 65 because I think Joe was still up in the air whether they could get him down to 65. Apparently, from what I was told, Joe, they wrestled a best 2 out of 3 series, and Joe won twice in a row and beat him. And, yeah, it's tough. I mean, you know, just like that, Chandler Rogers' career is over. 2-time All-American, I believe, you know, from Stillwater. And Joe's from Stillwater, too. So from everything I've been told, you know, I think it was a pretty tough situation for everybody involved. And, you know, like Coach Smith, I don't think he wanted anything to do with it. I mean, it was, you know, we were kind of told he just sat over to the side during the match and didn't say a word. And, you know, I think we did interviews on Tuesday and the wrestle-off had happened on Monday. And, I mean, you could tell, you know, it kind of seemed like the air had been taken out of them a little bit. I'm sure they're fine by now. But, you know, I mean, that's what happens when you have the number 2 team in the nation is you're going to have some matches between guys to decide who's going to be in the lineup. But I definitely think that was kind of a tough situation for everybody involved.
Well, you can't sit here and say, well, it's not fair. How else are you supposed to do that? I mean, that they wrestle off. I mean, that's the best way. But unfortunate for Chandler Rogers. But how does that work now, Joe Smith? Because Chandler Rogers was a 3 seed, right? And now Joe is 8. How does that work going forward to nationals in his seeding? Because he hasn't wrestled at 165 ever, right?
Right. No, this year he hasn't. They recently had some rule changes, and Coach Smith has explained them to us, but it's kind of hard to get a grasp on them. But pretty much the way I understand it is that each weight, depending on how many ranked wrestlers pretty much are at each weight, determines how many spots from the Big 12 go to the national tournament. So, like, I think it's 157. There's only, like, 1 spot. Like, you have to win 157 to go to the NCAAs. 133 is a lot tougher. There's, like, 4 or 5 spots at 133 to go. And that all has to do with who's ranked at the end of the year going into the conference tournament. Now, at 165, I mean, you know, as far as Joe's concerned, I think he's going to have to, you know, place pretty high to make it. I mean, because like you said, he hasn't wrestled there all year. So that's going to be kind of interesting to watch. You know, Chandler, he was ranked he was still in the top 10 at that weight, but at the same time, Chandler was hurt all year too. So, you know, I don't know. I think throughout the year, they had to do things that they had to shuffle guys around just to stay competitive in dual meets. And then now that they got to the end, you know, there were some tough decisions had to be made, and it just so happens, you know, that the coach's son is the one who beats out the senior, and I think that adds more to it than anything, and it really shouldn't, you know, if that could have been anybody, but just because it's Coach Smith's son, that's why it's, you know, maybe gotten some scrutiny or more attention. But, you know, like you said, it's, I mean, it's a fair.
It's as fair as it
You
can
hate
be.
it for Chandler Rogers, but at the same time, there's, you know, if you got two guys at a weight that you're kind of torn between, that's the only way to decide it is, you know, when you have a top 5 team in the country, you know, you don't base things based off of, oh, well, he's a senior, we're going to stick him out there. I mean, that's just not how they roll. So overall, yeah, just I think, but back to your question about the seeding, I think that's how it works, just based off how many ranked wrestlers there are at each weight.
So how many guys are we going to see? I guess I'm kind of skipping over the Big 12 tournament, but how many of these guys are we going to see in nationals competing for an individual title?
You know, I could see if we were come back next week and every single guy made it, it wouldn't surprise me. They've had that good of a year. I think 157 is definitely a spot where if they're not going to, you know, and Wyatt Sheets has improved as the year's gone on, but he's just still young, and you just don't know on that stage what he's going to do.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, I mean, you know, Cade Brock, he's ranked a little lower, but he was kind of fighting some injuries earlier in the year, and he won against Iowa, and I think maybe he's getting healthy. The bottom of the lineup, you know, with Preston Weigel coming back, they moved Dakota Gear down to 184, which he was wrestling at 197, and then they also moved Jacoby Smith from 184 down to 174. Right. And one thing that I don't think people realize is those guys that had to fill in towards the bottom of the lineup, they were wrestling light. So like because they knew this transition was going to happen. Jacoby Smith knew he was going to have to get down to 74. Dakota Gear knew he was going to have to get down to 84. So those guys have been wrestling, you know, as much as 5 pounds underweight in matches. And like Coach Smith said, that can make a huge difference. I mean, 5 pounds doesn't sound like a lot, but strength-wise, it really, you know, can make a difference. And like Jacoby Smith, he's going to be at 174. He's been wrestling at 184 all year. And really at 184, he's stronger than most guys he faces already. Now he's bumping down 10 pounds. And he was saying the other day that, you know, he's feeling great because he said when he was at 184, he'd go practice, just a regular practice, he'd lose like 6 pounds, and then he'd have to just go eat a bunch of, I mean, so
a lot of pasta.
People always think of wrestling of cutting weight. Well, there's also the flip side of that, where Jacoby Smith was like, you know, I didn't feel very solid because I'd have to go and, you know, just indulge in a lot of food after practice.
Put in
just
10,000 calories or something like that.
I'm really interested to see how the bottom of the lineup works, because I think that they're finally in a spot now where some of the guys are actually where they're supposed to be.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you look at Nick Piccinini and Dayton Fix, certainly people would expect Dayton to, I mean, he's a national championship contender. You can't give him the title already, but probably a future All-American looking for his first conference title. And there's a lot of ones on this. It's not arrogant. It's not cocky. Nothing's guaranteed in sports. But is there any team in the Big 12 that can rack up enough team points to even be competitive to keep the Cowboys from getting that 7th consecutive title?
No, I don't. Yeah, you're right. You don't want to be cocky or, you know, whatever the word is, but I just don't see how they can get beat in the team rankings. I mean, it would have to.
They'd have to not.
They would have to not show up and just absolutely lay an egg, because I mean they've dominated all year. You know, I mean, they just beat Iowa, and you know, nothing against Big 12 wrestling, but it's not near as tough as caliber team at Iowa or Missouri. So, I think the team championship is about as sure of a thing as you can have right now. But I mean, you never know. But I think they're gonna win.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. How do you think? You mentioned Missouri and Iowa to end the year. How do you think scheduling those two really tough opponents at the end of the season helps them get prepared for this weekend and then next weekend?
I think it was really good. Coach Smith talked about how that was something that they, you know, him and the Iowa coach, they, you know, specifically wanted to do that because, like he said, you have that Iowa duel where, you know, after the Iowa duel, and then you have 3 weeks to prepare, you're either going to be sitting there saying, you know, man, we got to get a lot better, and know what you got to work on, or, you know, in their case, you win it and you get a pretty good boost and you're feeling good about yourself going into postseason. I think, I really think the schedule couldn't have worked out better for them. Now, if they go lose those 2 duels, it's a little different. You're kind of feeling a little, you know, beat down going in. But, you know, that wasn't the case. They won them, so I think scheduling was pretty smart on their part.
Well, the first round, I guess, or match, the matches get underway tomorrow, go through Saturday. So it'll be interesting to see. We're going to have you back on before they go out to Pittsburgh to talk about the national tournament. But thank you so much for coming on. We're going to take a 71-hour break. We'll be back on Monday. Thank you for watching One-on-One on Suddenlink Channel 112. We'll see you Monday.
In my mind, I was never going to walk right again. Before we were through, we had walked 23 steps. And that was my first steps of freedom. This patient is saying thank you.